Morning, what's up, everybody? I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to be really quick with this video because I got to go out to work, but we're starting with Luke chapter 22. Now, the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which was called the Passover. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the 12. And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains how they might betray him unto them. And they were glad, and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the presence of the multitude. Now, let me just give you a little context to why these leaders, Jewish leaders, wanted to kill the Messiah, the Jewish rabbi. It was mainly because he said something that was controversial. And his first disagreement with them was over Sabbath. They were saying, you have your followers eating and picking ears of corn on the Sabbath, and Jesus corrected them about that. And he healed a guy on the Sabbath day as well. And that was a no-no for them. And they decided, no, you need to go. And then secondly, he turned around again and again exposed them, constantly exposed their hypocrisy. He would say, you're supposed to honor your parents, yet you won't give money to your parents. Instead, you give to the church because it's a gift. So he exposed their hypocrisy. And then he came back again. And on top of that, he also went out and actually said he was the Son of God. So they felt that he should be killed. But here's the interesting thing. So he shook the boat. Somebody within his own camp, of his 12 disciples, was the one that betrayed him, Judas Iscariot. So it took somebody from the inside to betray this man. And I would say this. Zack Snyder was betrayed from the inside of Warner Brothers. He was betrayed from the inside. We had detractors on the outside. We had people gunning to assassinate him, to get him out of the DCEU. But really, the effect, the actual action that took place that got rid of him was someone on the inside basically betrayed him, But what I'm going to talk about is an aspect that I see people like Alex Leadbeater. I know Alex Leadbeater is an idiot, but nonetheless, Alex Leadbeater trying to make an argument. He did one in one of the posts where he was talking about how Zack Snyder is a controversial figure and you can't have that person to start your universe. He's not a good look for the universe. He's not a good look. Sorry about the horn. He's not a good look for the universe. And, he's a controversial figure and his movies are controversial. And he tried to go through them. And he totally misunderstood the movies because he talked about Sucker Punch being a fascist movie, which it is not. It's not fascist in any way, shape, or form. It's not even sexist. It's actually the opposite. But see, these guys don't understand things. So, you just let them talk out of their little brains because they have little minds. But nonetheless, my point being that he ends up comparing Zack Snyder to Michael Bay. And it really annoys me when they try to compare Zack Snyder to Michael Bay. I'll show you guys why. All right. Now, what does Banksy have to do with this? You'll see. I'm going to show you some things that Banksy did when he was doing his graffiti. That is very interesting because I told you this was kind of deeper than I was able to explore in the last video. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper. So let me go to screen share here and show you guys what I'm talking about. But you can see that Jesus himself was betrayed. I'm not saying Zack Snyder is Jesus, but Jesus himself was betrayed. And so this is going to get pretty interesting. Let's get it going. So I'm in screen share at this present point in time. Wonderful. Okay, so these are some of Zack Snyder's movies. Okay, these are some of Zack Snyder's movies. These are some of Michael Bay's movies. We'll come back to this. But I really wanted to start off with Banksy. And one of the things that Banksy does a lot of, and he's very ironic, is he uses smiley faces. And you know the smiley faces used a lot in Watchmen and Watchmen comics, etc. by Alan, I believe it's Alan Moore. But Banksy uses it in a very interesting way. For instance, he shows the militarization of the police force, but that the police are actually angels coming to protect us, but they are not. It's under the guise of being protected, but they are not coming to protect you. Okay, so you have the smiley face with the militarized police who have semi-automatic and fully automatic weapons. All right. And then Banksy also shows us the smiley face, always the irony. He calls this the Grin Reaper. So not the Grim Reaper, but the Grin Reaper. So they're smiling while they kill out the masses, right? Because you know the elite wants to wipe out the masses. This is the narrative. So here you have now the Grim Reaper, and you have the clock telling time. And what do we know? The doomsday clock from Watchmen, right? The comedian seeing the ultimate end and laughing about it and finds it ironic. All right. And he has this in many of his exhibitions. You'll see the militarized police above. You know, he had this exhibition in England. I'm trying to remember what it's called, where he had the cow and the cars and all these messages, very clear messages about the militarization of the police force. They're no longer trying to serve and protect, but more they are like an army. And then you can see doing the work of corporate sponsorship. And then we see, you know, Big Brother. They're monitoring everything with CC cameras. You can't go anywhere in the world without being spotted, being tracked. They're tracking you online. So he's talking about that, which is very true. That's a reality today. He also talks about, I'll show you some other things. See, he does it the same thing with the stormtroopers to show the parallel between what Star Wars was saying and what's happening in reality now. The reality is becoming more and more of that. Show you some other things here, which are very interesting. Here's corporate. Again, corporations now are controlling people. This is a little girl, and she's now been manipulated by McDonald's and Disney. And if you think about it, McDonald's and Disney has become, you know, Walt Disney started off this franchise, right? And if you've ever watched TV, you would see Michael Keaton or Michael Douglas. He actually played a role in how McDonald's came to be, you know, a franchise chain. And it's very interesting that now McDonald's is very much a corporate body. It's a corporate body, and it's just there to do business. And a lot of these fast food corporate bodies don't give a damn about family. It's the weirdest thing in the world. And Walt Disney is the same thing. Walt Disney started off with, you know, little magical things for kids, but now it's a big corporation. It owns a lot of property. Trust me, Disney goes all the way through in the business industry, and Disney is now a machine. It's not a person. And so when people get, you know, you see the little kids watching Disney on TV and stuff, they've been sort of assimilated into the machine. So this is what we're seeing here with the little girl here being pulled along by McDonald's and Disney. I thought it was really cool. Here he has the Mona Lisa holding a rocket launcher and having being pumped full of pop music and pop culture, which is not helping you but dumbing you down. You know, I love that he's and you know, a rocket launcher, because if you think about it, a lot of kids now playing video games. It's a lot of war video games, teaching them, disciplining their minds to go to war. It's a lot about shooting, guns. The same thing Mr. Rogers with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was fighting against. Instead of building community, what we are having is people isolated. So what we have with the internet right now is people being separated from their communities, not interfacing with each other, not building relationships with each other, but being sculpted to be perfect soldiers, perfect weapons. They don't interface with each other anymore. They're just servants of the system. So people have now been sucked into a system which now will tell them what to do, tell them where to go. And that's what's happening. And Banksy kind of speaks out about that. So Banksy, pushing back, says, laugh now, but one day we'll be in charge. That is the underclass. Okay. Here are some other interesting things. This is red versus blue, which is talking about the rat is us. We're the lab rat, okay? And we are actually looking at, and this is really cool with Banksy, because Banksy really talks about stuff. He's talking about Democrats versus Republicans, or what we call the right wingers versus the left wingers. They have us only seeing through 3D through two lenses, no other lens. Then he comes here and talks about the crush. The crush in this case, I'm just giving you some of Banksy's material. The crush here, this is a guy in front of a strip club, and he fell in love with a stripper, right? Or fell in love with a, you have pimps and you have hoes or whores. Well, he fell in love with a whore, so his heart's broken. And that's kind of like us. We buy into the whorish principle, the whorish, the popular idea that, this is a great American dream or some other thing. You can be whatever you want to be, but really the system is rigged for you not to be whatever you want to be. It's be whatever we tell you to be. And so that's part of it. Then you got the journeyman. It's the guy with a hacksaw, and he cuts through. He gets to the truth. Shop till you drop. This person's actually falling. You see what I'm saying? The paratrooper, which is very interesting. Another rat. We're all lab rats. So we're being used as the paratrooper to fight wars for the elite. The elite don't fight no damn war, and they ain't going on no battlefield. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand where it's coming from, okay? Sport or sporting has become a weapon where nations can say they're better than other nations or train them for war and stuff. Balance. This is interesting. This is the jackhammer. All right. Propaganda, where you see people talking about peace, but really they're still fighting wars. It's just a tool to fight wars. And the beret. So, these are the stuff that Banksy talks about all the time. And his themes are really pretty deep. Here's a guy. He's painting a lot of smiley faces on the walls. All right. So he kind of points out the irony of things. But what's interesting is if you watch Zack Snyder's Watchmen, yes, it's influenced by Alan Moore, but it's also influenced by Banksy quite a lot. And that's why I said Zack Snyder has a lot in common with Banksy, because Zack Snyder actually makes these statements. And again, he's not trying to, go red versus blue or anything like that. He's just talking from a human perspective, from a human rights perspective, how people should be treated in this world. And that's what I like. See, he says here, we will win. That's the little rat. Again, we are the lab rats. Sometimes he uses guinea pigs, lab rats, monkeys. Okay, he uses different things to highlight different topics, which I find very cool. All right. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to show you guys that this is One Nation Under CCTV. The police is taking a picture of the kid while the cameras are taking a picture of the kid as well. But what's interesting about this whole thing, I would say, is now we don't even need CCTV. People have their phones. They take pictures of everything. Facebook has made everybody start to show their personal lives so that they can harvest information on any individual now on social media. So social medias have become our new CCTV. And people are always happy to express themselves on social media, not understanding this data collection on social media. So there's all of that going on as well. See, this is the corporate militarized army that's being built. And that's why a lot of people are always looking at, you got to look at Russia. You got to look at it. Yeah, you got to look at Russia. Trust me, you got to look at Russia. That's true. You got to look at all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, while you do have to look at Russia, you got to understand business. Anything that happens in history, business wanted that to happen. It's the corporate businesses that are pushing these things. Okay. And so you have to understand totalitarianism, if it's profitable, that's where businesses want to go. And if they can manipulate the masses and have them do what they want them to do, well, obviously, that's the direction they will want to go. And they'll get the masses to believe that, as if it's the new normal. Understand what I'm saying? So you got to understand where this whole thing's going. childhood is disappearing as more and more kids don't be kids anymore. They're just these zombies hooked to a computer screen. And now people are not even interactive. They're not processing anything. The next generation is going to be dumber than the first in terms of interaction, social interaction. And that is a problem. So this is the protester here. See A, meaning anarchist. He says, don't forget to eat your lunch and make some trouble. The people's protester. Okay. That's what's up. So they talk about being woken and all that stuff. All right, folks. So I just wanted to share that. Here's a nice one again. This is Keep It Real. So, you know, if you got a certain degree of street smarts, you understand what's up. And a lot of people from the streets, they really could run nations and places because they really got it, man. They got that street smart inside of them. So if you got street smarts, you probably can make it anywhere in life or in the world. But it's up to you if you want to make it out of the streets, or you're going to just have a short lifespan, and that'll be it. But yeah, Zack Snyder's Watchmen has a lot in common with what I just showed you with Banksy. But not just Watchmen, almost all his films, Sucker Punch, all of Gahul, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League to a limited extent. 300 was again another kind of anarchist thing where they would not bow to the Persian governor. So there's this shreds of that. It's not as heavy as Dawn of the Dead is kind of anarchist thing as well. Deciding I'm not going to accept my fate and get taken down by these zombies. What are the zombies? The people in the system, kind of like Neo, you know, and the Matrix. The people in the Matrix are the zombies, right? And they're taking over everything, and you're being converted into zombie yourself. So in a way, Zack Snyder has always visually been telling a story, the same story over and over. You do not have to accept the reality and fate that you think you are ending up in. That's a mind game. You can always beat the system. Even when you are shackled down and you think you're really imprisoned, you can free your mind, even in your imprisonment and your limited ability to do things about the situation, which is what Sucker Punch was about. When you look at Owls of Gahul, it shows it's not just about who is a hero, but it also talks about clearing away all that stigma and all this mythos about heroes and understanding people that just need to do the right thing in spite of the odds that are against them. And again, it's about pushing back against a system that says, no, you should lay down. So Owls of the Gahul teaches kids this. So Zack Snyder has a running theme throughout almost all his movies he has taken on. All the projects he's taken on. If you look at Zack Snyder, and he always has a fresh, new take to things. All right. And the other thing about Zack Snyder, I think that a lot of people miss, is he's not really into action films. Yes, there are actions in his movies. His movies have action in them, but they're not really action films. Batman v Superman had action coming down to the end, but for most of Batman v Superman, it wasn't a lot of action in it. It was more of a drama. It was more of a movie about our world and things happening in our world. So it was mostly a drama film. Zack Snyder does drama films. Dawn of the Dead was more of an action film, but again, it's about the relationship between the characters in that movie that makes that film good. You know what I'm saying? 300, it was an epic, but yes, it was mostly about action, mostly about fighting, mostly about war. But again, it had its dramatic elements to it, even though not as dramatic as his later works. I would say 300 is probably is more of an epic, more of a mythical epic than it is a drama film. It's kind of more on lore, okay? However, Watchmen is not really an action film. It is more of a thriller which has political commentary in it, again, based on humanism. You see you feel that almost punk rock kind of anarchism, but it's based on humanism. It's not just anarchism for anarchism's sake, but it's based on humanism. And so Zack Snyder is commenting on our humanity, ourselves. What is the best way to go? How, you know, notice Zack Snyder didn't leave it open-ended when Ozymandias got his way. he allowed Night Owl to comment on what Ozymandias did and to actually flip the joke on Ozymandias and show him how limited he was and how he had to use a lie to try and make things right. In other words, Night Owl did not condone what Ozymandias did. And so it's not a nihilistic movie, okay? Unlike The Dark Knight, which is somewhat nihilistic and probably even more nihilistic than Watchmen is. The thing about Watchmen that a lot of people were somewhat angry about was the fact that Rorschach died, but yet Ozymandias was not killed for destroying all these people and causing all this mayhem. It seemed as though he was not held accountable. So that's why a lot of people think that, you know, Watchmen was nihilistic. Now, if you go and watch the ultimate cut, which is the actual cut that is here, this is the one you need to go watch. It does go into some detail about how Ozymandias actually gets himself punished in the end. But it's a sort of self-inflicted punishment. It's not, you know, it's not the same as the traditional punishment. But it's interesting, Ozymandias serves as the elite, the people who make decisions about which direction the world would go in. And I feel like Zack Snyder kind of paralleled that, and it seems as though they are untouchable, but actually they are touchable. With the Legend of the Owls of Ga'Hoole, again, Zack Snyder, you know, paints so many different pictures of these things. But I feel like, again, there is a lot of drama in the Owls of Ga'Hoole, even though it's a child story. And I feel there's a lot of mature themes that Zack Snyder put into this child story, which you would not normally have in children's stories. And there's a degree of realism to this story where there are consequences for, you know, if you interact with certain things, you die. You literally die. So there was peril in this movie, much like there was a movie that was like that. I can't remember what it was called. Some dogs, I think it was in it, and a cat that Walt Disney did once, where literally characters died in that movie. And in this movie, Legend of the Guardians of Owls of Ga'Hoole, you also have characters dying in that movie. It's a much more serious take on, you know, on animated movies. And what's nice about it also is it reminds me of Kubo and the Two Strings, where there was also some people who died in that movie as well. But still, Kubo and the Two Strings, they kind of came back in another form. So I can't really, that they still kind of softened that up. Owls of Ga'Hoole, they didn't soften up anything. It was like characters die in this movie. So children get to see early on in their favorite films, death. So I feel like Zack Snyder addressed again, he has a certain level of direction that, again, allows us, and again, he had some anarchism in there, you know, the deconstruction of the hero, and how, again, we see the hero who he truly is, so we get to know who the true hero is. We see another hero take up the mantle of hero. Kind of reminds me of what Ryan did in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, where they kind of deconstructed Luke Skywalker somewhat, and then took Rey and let Rey carry on the torch. I wouldn't be surprised that Ryan probably got some inspiration from Zack Snyder's Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole, because it's kind of like something like that, where the hero kind of gets inspired by the little mentee who was coming to him to get mentorship. Sucker Punch is definitely an anarchist film. The whole celebration in that film is about anarchists, about an oppressed person using what they have to get out of oppression. That's the whole point of Sucker Punch. It's a very sad film, but the highlight of the film, the highlight of the tragedy, is the fact that the person's still able to make a choice which direction they want to go. Man of Steel. Man of Steel is not an anarchist film per se, but it depends on what perspective you look for. If you're looking at it from a Kryptonian perspective, it's an anarchist film. If you're looking at it from a human perspective, it is a film about a savior who does not want to be controlled by mankind, but will submit himself to mankind. If you look at it from a Kryptonian perspective, which is very interesting, thinking of, you know, the disconnect between the lower classes and the higher classes, you could look at the higher classes as Kryptonians, the lower classes as you, me, the others, right? And if you look at it, this is a Kryptonian that decided he understood what the higher classes were, but he decided to represent the lower classes, you know? So you can look at Man of Steel that way. Batman v Superman, we don't even need to go into that. You know, we still talking about that film, right? And then you have Justice League. Justice League is probably the weakest of them all that he has done because it's not fully fledged his stuff. But there's enough in there to show, you know, again, there's the degree of, again, awareness, especially in our world today, that Whedon was able to leave in the film. But it's the weakest of them, I think, because it's not purely Zack's vision, which is why we need to have hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Now, let me show you. So, like I said before, you can see that Zack Snyder's films are not just action. Now, Michael Bay. Let's go to Michael Bay. Now, Michael Bay's Transformers franchise, first of all, straight off the bat, it's all about action. Okay? The majority of the movie has action straight through it. It reminds me of Justice League in some respects and Marvel movies, in that it just has action, 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 action. There's some build up to the action, but they go straight into the action pretty much. Armageddon is an action-packed film as well, but Armageddon is one of his better films, where he actually has a storyline and there's stakes and the clock is running and we get some characters, we get the different character flavors. But again, thematically speaking, the core of the film is about these guys trying to defuse a bomb and they have some conflict between them. It is not an anarchist film. It is not a politically charged film or a humanist film per se, even though there is humanism in it because it's trying to save the world. It has no depth to it. 13 Hours is about these special forces soldiers who are on standby, ex-soldiers, who come up to save lives in the Benghazi story. All right, were it not for them, probably everybody would have been dead. And again, it's pretty straightforward. There's no, you know, there's some depth to it, but very little depth. It's all about the action. It's all about, you know, there was this, it's somewhat anarchist in the sense that they did ignore their superior and go to save these people. So there's humanism, but it's not the depth, the weight. It's not a drama. Okay. All of these films I just mentioned so far are action films, except for Armageddon. Armageddon has some drama in it, but it's mainly because we have all these guys cooking together in the same pot and they have different ways of going about doing things. So that's the drama there. It's not deep drama. You understand what I'm saying? 13 Hours is the same thing. It's more of an action flick. It's more about what they were doing in combat and stuff. There's certain decisions that they made and thoughts about their families and stuff, but it doesn't go that deep. It's not a deep film. All right. It's not based on any depth of any kind. All right. The Island, I haven't seen that, so I can't talk about that. The Rock, fantastic action film. You know, showcases Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. But to say that it's any deeper than that, it's all about them getting into the prison and getting out of the prison. That's what The Rock is really about. It's not any weighty kind of film. It's not a drama. It's an action flick. Okay? And that's how they use it. And that's one thing with Michael Bay, that's what he does. Action. He's great at action. Pearl Harbor, same thing. Great at action. There was a little bit of drama in there, but for the most part, the movie's an action flick. Bad Boys, straight up stylized action flick. There's very little to do with drama, very little to do with anything else. It's just straight up action flick. Pain and Gain, a comedy, straight up action. Action from beginning to end, right? And Pain and Gain, it's a nice journey. It's a fun movie, but at the end of the day, no real deep substance. You see what I'm saying? He also did Angry Birds, which was his animated feature. And again, I enjoyed Angry Birds. I enjoyed Angry Birds for what it was from Sony. I enjoyed it for what it was. It had some charm to it, but it was a typical Disney movie, which had some more sharper slapstick humor. It was nothing really. There was some depth to it. What do you say? No, there was no depth. There was no depth to it. But I mean, the guy would, you know, when he gets angry and they learn to work as a team. No, there wasn't much depth to it. There was no deconstruction of heroes, none of that stuff. Well, there was a little bit of deconstruction of hero, the eagle guy who eventually came in to help them. Okay, okay. But at the end of the day, it was nothing like Alzagao. No, 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 no. The stakes are not the same. You know, nobody dies really. Okay. So it was more of a comedy, and Zack Snyder didn't do comedy. Another thing about Michael Bay uses a lot of comedy in his movies. You look at Bad Boys 2, Pain and Gain, there's a lot of comedy. You look at The Rock, it has some comedy in it, it's serious, but it has some comedy in it. All the Transformers movies have comedy in them, an awkward comedy at that. Armageddon had comedy in it. And my point simply being that Zack Snyder really doesn't do that. He doesn't really do a lot of movies with comedy in them. You look at Batman v Superman, didn't have much comedy in it. Superman, Man of Steel didn't have much comedy. Sucker Punch didn't have much comedy. Legend of Gahul didn't have much comedy. There were some comic characters in it, but not much comedy. Watchmen didn't have comedy. 300 didn't have much comedy. Dawn of the Dead had some comical characters, but again, not much of a comedy. Zack doesn't really do comedy. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, if you want a deeper dive into cinema, if you want something that actually means something, you look at a Zack Snyder film, not a Michael Bay film. I mean, you could swing it and try and get something out of it, but I'm tired of hearing these people try to compare Zack Snyder to Michael Bay. They're talking about how they hate Michael Bay films. Some people have strong reactions to Michael Bay films, but they don't have strong reactions to Zack Snyder films. And I think that's just being unfair and disingenuous to Zack Snyder because hold on a second. Because if you look at Michael Bay's films, I'm gonna be honest with you, they're action films. They're not expected to be these great, you know, mind-rending, mind-bending films. They're not supposed to be, right? Michael Bay is not trying to make an all-time, great classic. He's not trying to do that, right? The Rock is a fun film, but I don't expect you to remember it for the rest of your life. Good action film. It's known as an action film. When you think of Michael Bay, you think of action. Okay, that's what he gives you. Transformers, the action. He's all about the action, right? Zack Snyder's not all about the action. In fact, if you listen to Zack Snyder talk about a movie, unlike Michael Bay, Zack Snyder actually articulates what his story is sort of centered around. Michael Bay doesn't do that. He just talks about action, action, action all the time. How it look in the camera, how great the action is. He never tells you about story. You realize that? Michael Bay is not strong on story. He's not a great storyteller. He's an action movie director. He's been known as that for a long time. That's what he does. Michael Bay does action. You know what I'm saying? That's what Michael Bay does. He does action. He's an action director. Zack Snyder's not just an action. In fact, he's very little to do with action, being an action director. He is more of a storyteller. In a different sort of way. So he highlights things that you would not have normally seen. Michael Bay is all about visual spectacle. Zack Snyder is not about that. And so it's two different directors. Telling me that Michael Bay went to the same school as Zack Snyder means absolutely nothing to me, because that's like saying that I and some other guy come from the same country, so that's expected that we behave the same way. That's not necessarily the case, because I can completely be totally different person to the other person from the same country. Okay, and I even look totally different to that person as well. So it's this stereotype that's really stupid, but of course it's Alex Leadbeater, who's a hater. And so he's trying to say that, Zack Snyder is like Michael Bay, and therefore this is not a person best suited to start the universe. Yet he's the one that was successful at starting the universe. Warner Bros. Couldn't get anybody else to start the DCEU. It was Zack Snyder that made it possible through Man of Steel. So if Zack Snyder started the universe, why the hell would Warner Bros. Want to go a different direction and Marvelize the universe? And guys like Alex Leadbeater, these idiots, okay, who don't know about the demographic and the people who really come to see these movies, it's these idiots that they don't have an interest in the universe, but everybody else who supports the movie, where Warner Bros. Gets most of their money from, they support the universe. But it's idiots like Alex Leadbeater, and then I guess somebody inside the camp of Warner Brothers. I'm gonna say Jeff Johns, Jeff Johns, somebody inside the camp of Warner Brothers who has been sabotaging Zack Snyder and what he's been doing with these movies. So reshaping the universe into something else. It's not. They're trying to even. People are now talking about what almost sounds like woodcock. You know, I'm like, good God, what the hell is that? Right? They don't want to even call it the DCEU anymore. Trying to kill off the DCEU name. And the reason they're trying to kill off the DCEU is because they don't want the DCEU. These people in management, these people like Jeff Johns, Jeff Johns, these kinds of guys don't want the DCU. These are the Judases inside the camp. This is the Judas. He speaks nice about Zack Snyder. He says he defends Zack Snyder, but behind Zack Snyder's back, he's betraying the dude. And now he's got the universe at his fingertips to destroy. Because he's going to destroy it, man. This guy's going to destroy the universe, man. And he pisses me off. And he got that phony-ass DC TV stream that's going on there trying to emulate what Zack Snyder does. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't start a universe for nothing. He tried. He was at the helm of Green Lantern. Failed. Okay? Failed. Hailing it as the best movie ever. He was at the helm of Justice League. Failed. It flopped. It flopped. How many times we're gonna go with this dude? Huh? Now he's writing the script for Aquaman. I ain't mad at that. But if he's got creative control over Aquaman and not James Wan, and the execs, the suits are dealing with Aquaman, Aquaman gonna flop as well. Because nothing, Jeff Johns is not a director. He's not a director. Okay? And he will need help telling his story. And Warner Bros. Trying to marvelize the DCEU is a stupid move. It's stupid. And I, as a fan, will say that every day. Because I didn't come to the DCEU to watch a Marvel flick. I didn't come to the DCEU to watch a Marvel flick. Y'all marvelized a little bit of Wonder Woman. I said, okay, I'm going to let that slide. It still isn't my best DCEU movie. It's Batman v Superman, Justice League, Man of Steel, and then Wonder Woman. And by the way, Justice League only gets to the head. Actually, you know what? I don't even know if Justice League's up there. It might be behind Wonder Woman. Maybe just above Suicide Squad. You know, even though it ties everything together. I'm thinking, now that I think about it and what they did to Zack Snyder's vision, it don't deserve to be so high up. Wonder Woman is not the best DCEU film, and we all know this. Everybody knows this. Love Patty Jenkins and everything, but it's not. So at the end of the day, Zack Snyder's films is still the top, not only the top grossing, but also for us of the DCEU, one of the top ranking films in the DCEU. Let me go to the chat section, see what you guys got to say. I know it's early in the day, but I'm still going to check it out. See what you guys saying. Hold on a second. Okay, we in the chat section. Ooh, interesting. Nobody commented. All right, well, that's it for me then. I'm gonna, okay, hold on a second. I got a boogie. I got to run because I got to go work. It's 9:18 in the morning. This is great. I'm going to be out of here early. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys have a great day, man. Stay true. Don't be a Judas. Don't be a traitor. Don't be a betrayer of other people. I'm not saying you have to be loyal, but I'm just saying, you know, live off of principle. What I mean by don't be a betrayer or a traitor. You see somebody doing good and you want to sabotage them because you're jealous of them. That's not cool. Okay? Loyalty is not obviously being loyal to someone who's doing wrong. You don't do that. But at the same time, you can't be a traitor. You know what I'm saying? So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can always leave your comments in the comment section. I'm out of here. Those of you have a good day. I hope you guys have a good day. I'm out. Peace.